And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
Oh, it was so good to listen to some of those high revving V8s, right? I mean, we got to bring those back, right, guys?
Yep.
Oh my god. Yeah, I know
Even
it
the
sounds
way-
like a broken record, but yeah, please bring them back.
Oh, I mean,
The
they
noise
sound
is
so,
uncomparable.
I mean, it's just amazing how loud those cars were, and just how just how good it sounds. Even when you watch an old race, because here we're talking about Imola 2008, and it's just amazing how good those V8 sound. So yeah, we
Yeah.
got to get those back in the next era. But
And the cars, even though we know like they are smaller, they sound so much bigger, right?
Yeah.
Because the
Yep.
construction is different, the camera angles are different, the tires are just beasts. You know, those threaded tires, like so much fun
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
cars.
Seems to last a hell of a lot longer than modern day tires.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so we watched the Italian GP from 2008, and it took place on September 14th, 2008. And some of the notable things that were going on in the world right now, well, the biggest thing when you Google September 2008 is going to be the global financial crisis. So the Dow had dropped 500 points the day after, and it was the largest one day drop in 6 years. And then 2 weeks later, it drops another 778 points. LK, I know at the time you were so poor you didn't know that all of this was going on. So, do you have any memories from that?
I do. I almost lost my job, actually. Yeah, it was a fun timing, fun times. But yes, I mean, it ended up being a global crisis, like you said. But starting in the US, I was here already, and it was like tough to see a lot of things going on. I was lucky in a sense that I was not that much of a poor that you tried to portray, but I didn't own much, so to me, I wasn't affected. I didn't have a mortgage. So that didn't affect me as much, but seeing people just getting fucked, those stuff.
Yeah, Jamie, what about you? Was there any effect from the global crisis from you?
No, we didn't have it down here, eh? Like our government tried to play it up like we were because they wanted an excuse to give everyone $1,000. But when you look at the market, we were kind of unaffected, and I didn't get that money anyway. So I was apparently too young, even though I was 18 and had been in the workforce since I was 16.
Too rich, maybe.
Too young to get the money. No. They had a cutoff at a certain point where you had to have been 18, and yeah, I was off by like 31 days or something like that. So fuck them, but
lucky
it was good. It was
lucky.
It was okay for us. So,
well, how about you, Jason?
I was in school, so I had no idea what was going on.
Of course.
So
the lost American.
Yeah, exactly. Tuition was still due, though. They didn't give us a break on that. Well, in other international news, the international regulators allowed India to purchase nuclear fuel. So shout out to our man Alistair on that. But there was the condition that they could only use it for civilian purposes. So
gotta ask Alistair if they follow through that.
yeah. Well, our man on the scene, we'll have him check out and see. In other interesting news, the construction of the Spring Temple Buddha was completed on September 1st, so just 2 weeks before the race. It made it the tallest statue in the world at 128 meters, which I had to look up is 420 feet.
Is that the one?
I didn't know meters.
So that's not the one in Thailand, right? That's the one in China. Right?
In China, yeah. Yeah. And on September 28th, SpaceX, they launched Falcon 1, which became the first private spacecraft to be launched into orbit. So private spacecraft gets on the board through SpaceX and Jamie's man, Elon Musk.
That's interesting because I didn't know that was so early, much time ago that they had launched the first one. I mean,
it feels like it's just been like the last 5 or 6 years.
I know, yeah, it's interesting to see that. Good tidbit.
All right.
And
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe let us know what was going on in qualifying. So they had a wet qualifying session. So what were some of the highlights from qualifying?
Yeah, so this race was actually interesting because prior to Italy, they had Spa, and there was a controversy about Lewis being disqualified for illegally passing Raikkonen. One of the
What
last,
what was the illegal pass?
one of the last turns, as Lewis was passing Raikkonen, he cut through the chicane,
Okay.
and he barely gave the position back to Raikkonen, but because he was the allegation was because he was better positioned through the angle of cutting the chicane, and he was just barely behind Raikkonen. He had an advantage because right on the next corner he passed Raikkonen again. So basically, he let Raikkonen pass in the middle of the straight on the new lap and passed Raikkonen right on the first turn. And the stewards just thought was a legal move. A lot of drivers actually agree with that. Some didn't.
Yep.
So it was a little bit of a controversy. And actually, after that, that came out a regulation that if something like this happens and you illegally pass someone, you need to wait at least two corners or one corner to try again.
Right.
So
You can't attack immediately. You have to wait. Okay.
Yeah, so that was the leading up to the weekend the race weekend. That was the big controversy. That also allowed actually Lewis to lose a lot of points because Massa either won or was second in Spa, so he was pretty close to Lewis on the championship. In terms of qualies, there was a lot of rain, heavy rain, and something back then that the broadcasting team was always talking about that in the entire fucking quali was that it had not rained in Monza in the past 17 years or something like that. So it was pretty rare at that point for Monza to have a rainy weekend. But in terms of qualies, obviously we know Seb got first, but there wasn't much going on with the exception of a few, lead drivers like Lewis that missed actually Q3. He started in 15th, one position behind Raikkonen. Lewis's new teammate for that year was Kovalainen, and he was actually doing 1 second faster than Lewis in the entire session. So people were praising him. He was showing a lot of potential, which never realized, but people were on him. He was basically fighting that first position with Vettel. Vettel did qualified first on both Q2 and obviously Q3. He was definitely the surprise of the day. He drove the race, the car very well. I honestly didn't remember that he actually qualified in pole. I thought he won the race because of circumstances, but it was nice to remember that he actually did it all, right? He got pole, he won the race.
I think he was even fast in practice too, right? Because it was kind of wet the whole weekend. I think even in practice, at least FP1 and 2, I thought he did really well the whole weekend. So because even a lot of the drivers were talking about STR were really on top of their game this particular weekend. That they really brought some speed for sure. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke for sure.
It wasn't, and say what you want. That team was used to be Minardi, right? So they are Italian team. They were running Ferrari engines, so they were an all Italian team, and it was their backyard, right? Quote unquote, backyard. So I think they knew what they were doing. I think that was their best shot of trying something. But a lot of people were praising that car. Some were saying that they were the fourth on the grid behind McLaren, Ferrari, and Williams. So they were doing something with that car. But aside of that, there was an expectation of no rain on Sunday. So some cars had dry setup, and I think that's why Lewis and Raikkonen were so down on the order. Massa qualified in 6th, so that helped him a lot theoretically to fight for the championship. But yes, a lot of drivers going down the list. Heidfeld had a good qualifying as well, but that didn't translate in the race.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the hype was that Massa was going to make up a lot of points at
Yeah.
this race, right?
Mm.
That Hamilton was going to get stuck in all of the traffic, and the conditions weren't really ideal for him to make up a lot of spaces. So Massa was going to pick up a lot of points, and this was going to catapult him to the last few races of the year, and potentially to the Drivers' Championship. So yeah, it was a big miss by Massa for sure. To not capitalize on what happened here. But so Jamie, so we see the race about to begin. You know, maybe tell us, you know, what are some of the things that caught your eye? What did you see and hear that you were interested in?
So they were very shocked that the Toro Rosso was that far up on the grid. That was one thing that, I mean, I think it was his 22nd race. So he'd been around. He'd done some pretty good things in the year before. We did a previous one from Canada 07, which resulted in him getting a chance in a car the next race. And he showed how good he was, and that's what guaranteed his spot. So we knew he was good. So they're surprised to see that in that car he was where he was, which, on pole is a big surprise for Toro Rosso. The engine noises, again, it's just something anyone who's just getting into Formula One now needs to go back and watch all these races, because the noises back then were 1,000 times better than what they are now.
Yep.
Names that, I kind of forgot, that were racing as I was coming through, like Jarno Trulli was a big one. The fact that Heidfeld was still in the field at this time, Nico Rosberg in Williams.
Glock.
I forgot that he was.
Timo Glock.
Yeah, Glock. Yeah. I totally forgot that Rosberg had raced a Williams. So that was like oh shit, yeah, he was in a Williams. So, this was almost where I think the fracturing of Lewis Hamilton and Rosberg's relationship sort of started, because they got into each other during the race. So, they're fierce competitors, good mates apparently, but this is where I think it all started.
Yeah, even I think they mentioned it in the race. That they had grown up together and raced before, and when they have the run in.
Bear in mind that this was the year that Lewis won his first championship. He wasn't known yet. There was a lot of tidbits about Lewis on the race, like growing up with Rosberg and other things. And like you said, Jason, like for him starting the race so far back on the grid and making up positions, it was a great display of his talents. And that he really wanted to fucking win that championship. He didn't want to at least give a lot of points to Massa, and he ended up finishing one position behind Massa. So he definitely did damage control in the race.
Damage control, exactly. Well, some of the other things from this season 2008. So this was the first year without traction control since 2001. So here you get to see a wet race, no traction control. There was some concern going into it, how the teams would be able to handle it, how the drivers would fare. This was the last season of grooved tires. So they went to all slicks after this for the dry weather tires, and then it's the last season Honda as a constructor. They don't come back until 2015 as an engine supplier. So this was their last time fielding a works team. And an interesting thing about 2008, it was the first time in F1 history that all the teams used their same two drivers the whole season. So let's hope that doesn't hold true in 2021, but let's hope that we get some changes in there. George,
it's very, very interesting, right? That it's so common for teams to change drivers. Well, at least it was back in the day. It's a very interesting point. And also,
and you had the Super Aguri team actually quit after I think 7 or 8 races, something like that. They ran out of money and just stopped fielding a team.
Can we talk about the broadcast?
Yes. Oh.
How awful they were.
So awful.
But at least they had graphics.
You could actually see who was in the running order.
A little bit. But like they all suffered. Brando, Crofty, they all suffered from bipolar disorder because they didn't know if they called Vettel or Vettel or whatever they wanted. Like it was so fucking cringy.
After this race, it was Wettel. What?
Vettel.
No.
Vettel.
Yeah, what? Okay, no, never mind. I was
The
terrible.
Rainmaster.
The Rainmaster. But yeah, the announcing is so bad. So I mean, they refused to admit that Seb had a legitimate shot at winning this race, and he was on
Right.
pole.
Yep.
Right. I mean, he's on pole, and they're saying, oh yeah, maybe he'll get a podium. And then as the race went on, they slowly come to the realization that he's in the best position. I
gonna
mean,
win.
there's complete focus on Hamilton. I mean, Jamie, I know that excited you, the focus on Hamilton, the whole race.
It was constant. Like, it was him moving through the field, like, oh, he's finally found his breaking points, and now look at him. And it was true. Like, once he got past Raikkonen, he just blew past the rest of the field. And but a lack of rain sort of towards the end of the race kind of cost him at least a spot on the podium, maybe a chance for the win. But it was definitely, as a Hamilton fan,
I'll give them that in the beginning. It's hard to predict a Vettel win, right? Because it was a smaller team. It was raining. Like anything could happen. But towards the middle to the end of the race, they kept insisting on Hamilton miraculously doing something. They were actually wishing for no rain or whatever it was. So the pits would come in and Hamilton would take over. Oh, it was a pathetic display of fanboyism.
Absolutely.
No, that was bad.
And this is the era of refueling, right?
Yeah.
As well. So they kept blaming it on, oh, we don't know, how much fuel teams are getting. So willfully disregarding Seb winning this race. It's really frustrating. I would recommend, if anybody rewatches this race, just watch it on mute. I mean, you'd be better off
but
to
the noises.
not listen. Yeah, listen for the car noises, but like when you hear a human speak, just turn it right off. I mean, they get confused on the strategy. They have no idea what Massa and Hamilton are doing towards the end of the race. It's complete garbage. And then again, the complete focus on Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
They refuse to give Seb the credit that he was due throughout the race. But
and Jamie, you mentioned that once Lewis passed through Raikkonen, he blew through the grid, and that was true.
Yeah.
However, you guys remember, Raikkonen had just signed an extension with Ferrari, right? He was the actual champion, right?
Reigning champion.
The reigning champion.
Right, yeah.
And there was this whole controversy that Alonso wanted that seat, Ferrari wanted Alonso, but things didn't work out, so they extended Raikkonen one more year, so he was guaranteed for 2009. But the kind of the point was that he had to play second driver to Massa because Massa had the best shot at winning back-to-back title for Ferrari, and he accepted. I think the controversy was more Alonso not getting to that seat, and Alonso was completely talking openly about wanting that seat. So it was a interesting dynamic of what was going on. But my original point was that Raikkonen as a second driver completely failed to hold Hamilton during the race. Hamilton just basically got into Raikkonen's back, and after one or two laps, he just blew past him.
I don't want to get into it. It doesn't seem like much of a controversy to me, though, because they had no choice. I mean, the guy just won the drivers' championship. You have to give him an extension. I mean, everybody recognized Alonso would be great, but you can't just disregard a drivers' championship like that. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Especially a hard fought one. Like he had to work for that one. It wasn't just given to him.
He did, but like, can we all agree that was pretty bland, right? Like Raikkonen winning was pretty bland because he totally won on the last race because Hamilton broke down, right? Even Alonso had on the bettings, right? Alonso had a better shot at winning than Raikkonen. So it was pretty bland. And this championship was like Massa was. I don't know if he was the hometown favorite, but he did speak the language, like his heritage was Italian, so the team liked him. The team wanted him to win, and that's why they tried to secure, Raikkonen to play second driver. But you saw Williams firing or letting Damon Hill go back on the day because they wanted Villeneuve to be the number one. I mean, so there was cases in the past where the teams just got the best driver they thought was available. And to me, Alonso on that 2009 Ferrari would greatly help them develop the car.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was a missed opportunity. I was actually reading just to conclude this highlights that Alonso was the top driver that Red Bull wanted for the 2009 season. However, he decided for the 2008 for the season that he was in, but he decided to go back to Renault because of Flavio Briatore. So much of a relationship they had that he trusted on him instead of trusting Red Bull's project with Adrian Newey and all of that.
Right.
So imagine if Alonso was at Red Bull developing that car.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting how it played out, and how things went. But Raikkonen was playing second driver, didn't start his job too well.
Well, in other pre-race drama, we have Seb's teammate, so Sebastian Bourdais. His car stalls on the grid, and so from my perspective, I mean, Bourdais was an excellent driver in IndyCar. I mean, he just went out and dominated the series. So like there was a lot of hope that he could translate to F1, and then he just has a pathetic F1 career, like absolutely pathetic. No, like I don't even know of any bright spots that he had. It's just awful.
Yes, he wasn't that good. He lasted a season and a half, or maybe in just one season, I think. So not good at all. Yeah, I was googling. So he finished this season. Then Seb went to Red Bull, right, the next year.
Yep.
And then he stayed for basically half of the season. Then he was like, so bad he was, and Alguersuari replaced him. And actually, on the
replacement,
2009 season was a mess for Toro Rosso because they had Bourdais and Buemi, both Sebastians. So it's kind of hard to. They were both SBs. It was tough to identify them.
And both terrible. So, so the race starts under the safety car, and it should have, because there was so much rain. It's very, very slick conditions, and then Jamie, your boy Seb, jumps out to an early lead. What did you see with Seb there?
It was a little bit. Oh, what's the word? Sort of, it set the tone for what he was going to do at Red Bull. He just blew it away. It was like Mercedes the last few seasons. They get that lead and it's gone.
Yep.
He never looked like they were going to catch him. I think he had a 2-second lead from Kovalainen after the first lap, and then he just kept pushing and pushing.
It's like he almost got to 5 seconds at 5 laps.
He almost got to pit the first time and almost had like a full pit stop gap. I think he ended up coming back out in like 4th and just took it up very quickly. But he just looked really good, really comfortable in the wet, really comfortable in that car. It had so much speed, and it was good through those sort of, not the chicanes, but those back 2 corners. And it was much like Max Verstappen this last weekend. It was gone as soon as he got through the corner.
Please, can we stick with 2008, please?
Well, but what I did love that Seb, he's out front and he's still pushing. He almost spins out. He's in the lead comfortably, still pushing. I mean, I love that racer heart there.
And this is the kind of race that being in front of everyone else definitely played an advantage, because the amount of spray the drivers were getting on the first laps was so scary. Like even on the onboard cameras, it was like tough to see anything. Yeah. So he definitely had an advantage there. And then your buddy Fisichella, Jamie. He pulled the Leclerc and crashed into Coulthard. Right? They were fighting. They were fighting for position. Then all of a sudden, like Fisichella just decides to not brake in one of the turns and crashes into Coulthard. Then he keeps going because the wing it wasn't completely broken, but in one of the straights it just goes under the tires, and then the car just like loses control and he crashes. But it's like, what are you doing? Speaking of Coulthards, it was his last season. No.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he retired after this season.
Yeah, because he's the old man at this time, right? When he's at Red Bull.
It never accomplished anything. But yeah,
The
Greatest
greatest
seat for a long
greatest
time.
second driver of all time, right?
great.
Isn't that
I
what
was
he
gonna
said?
say that the role model second driver of Formula One was retired.
Never achieved anything.
Yeah.
Clip that. And you know, there's some good battles early on, and we see Massa and Rosberg have a good battle early on, and as you said, Rosberg is in the Williams here, and it's the 500th race for Williams at this time, which is hard to believe. So they're in this race. So Rosberg and Massa are going after each other, and then you hear Martin Brundle say, hey, I'm surprised Rosberg didn't give Massa a little nerf there. They didn't just kind of bump him a little bit. And I think actually Nico was probably more surprised that he didn't nerf someone a la Austria 2016, because I mean, now we know that that's his MO, is to just not turn in corners and just run into people, particularly Lewis.
Yeah, but so you mentioned the 500 race for Williams, and one of the shots, it was pretty emblematic, was seeing Frank Williams there and actively involved with the race. It was so nice to see him, still in relatively good shape, managing that team. So that was a good memory that to see.
And in this era with these cars, they seem to have been built completely different than the current generation of cars. They seem to be very strong, very robust. They hit the curbs so hard. They are launching the cars over the curbs. They're hitting them, and maybe it's a factor of tire construction and just the way that the underbody, the under tray is made, and the barge boards that allowed them to do it, and they can't do it now. But you see at one point, I think it's around lap 39, Lewis, he hits the curb, and it's all four wheels in the air doing a jump over, and everybody's doing it. It's not like a one-off thing. You can see almost every lap people are doing this.
Yeah, they were just attacking, and like I said, like the cars, they were small, but they seem so much bigger, and they seem like a truck. They could do whatever they wanted, and no problems. And even for a rain race, they were attacking pretty hardly on the curbs. So that was interesting. I didn't remember that, but I guess the whole package can sustain the damage.
And I remember, so a few years before, they would do those super duper slow mo capture of people jumping over curves and watching the tire walls flex and stuff. I don't think there was any in this particular broadcast, but we certainly see people jumping curbs, and so as the race goes on, you see a lot of people attacking, going really hard. The thing that you sort of notice, since there's all the focus on Hamilton from the broadcast, is that he does better as the track starts to dry. So it's extremely wet at the beginning, and then the track starts to dry out. And so the speculation is that he was going for a dry weather setup. That he was trying to quickly get to the intermediates and then potentially even the slicks at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And the again, just to beat on the announcers a little bit more. I mean, they have no idea what's going on, but and again, total focus on him. But so they're building it up as he is going to make this miraculous podium finish and potentially even a win from 15th place, which didn't exactly pan out, but. Yeah,
and even at the pits, right? They would say, "Oh, those rain tires are blistering," and the camera was right on the tire. I couldn't see anything.
You didn't see anything.
It's like, what the fuck are they talking about? Just stick to race. But speaking of pits, right? Ferrari completely fought Massa's race.
Yeah,
they pitted too early. They put him back on traffic. He started in 6th. He finished in 6th. Like in a race that Hamilton blew through the midfield, and Ferrari was one of the best cars, if not the best cars in the grid. Like they just literally fought with Massa's race, And
Yeah.
Massa didn't help himself. I think he kept getting stuck behind cars and couldn't pass them. I'm thinking they had a more of a dry setup, and that had hampered the performance of the car.
At a minimum, they were very conservative, right? That they were thinking, okay, Hamilton's not going to make up any time, and so let's just be conservative. But there was no reaction, right? When they see Hamilton starting to come up through the field, they didn't react and try to do something different. They just kept with whatever their race was.
And again, Hamilton was just a young boy, right? We knew some of his capabilities because he almost won the previous championship, but he was still relatively young. So reaction like this, he was still unknown, So it was Ferrari completely missed the boat on this one.
Yep.
One highlight for me of the race was the great Mark Webber spinning like 2 or 3 times. Introducing the Australian lineage of like mediocre drivers, starting with Webber and again going on Ricardo.
Hey, we have our own Australian mediocre, right, Jamie?
Hey, we had a good driver back in the day, Alan Jones. You remember him? Just saying.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Driver.
Yeah,
they just haven't carried on his name. So. It was kind of funny just to see him doing what Webber does, just spinning around.
Typical Webber. Yeah.
Great position in a race, spin around and end up 5 positions back.
Well, I was going to say that speaking of mediocre, Coulthard is actually the first person to go to intermediates, and then we find that with 28 laps to go, the intermediates become as fast as the full wet tires. So that was the crossover point at about 23 laps to go. There's 53 total.
And who was the first one with balls to go and put on winters? You got it. The genius, Alonso, my boy, gets on that crappy Renault car. Tells the team, put me on winters. I need to do something because at that point, he had nothing to lose, and come to realize, and that makes me sad. Most of Alonso's career, it's like he has nothing to lose. He needs to do something, and then you see how much of a good driver he is because he can extract, water out of like stones here because. He just puts the Renault up there. It was a crappy season, crappy car, and he says, put me on Inters, Like, what's the worst can happen? We know he won't score any points. So he goes there, he gets on Inters, he starts doing some good laps, and then he sets the trend for the next wave of pit stops, right? Because then after that, Hamilton goes and stops, Raikkonen, Massa, everyone goes into Inters. So, he definitely set the stage for the last, maybe third or fourth of the race.
Yep. The thing that made me really happy about both qualifying and the race is this helps prove my theory that Jenson Button is the most overrated driver of our lifetime. I mean,
they didn't even mention Button in the race.
Didn't even mention. I think he finishes like 19th in this race. I mean, he just does horrendous. I have no idea how. This race helps you realize how much he just lucked into that Braun GP ride. By taking less money and just being the only person available to drive it. But most overrated driver of our lifetime for sure.
No, not even available, right? They just kept the same drivers.
Yeah,
because it was Barrichello and Button just literally kept the same drivers.
I think he had to take a big pay cut. I think he took a lot less money.
Both of them,
but they don't even mention him at all. And just think a year later, he's successfully fighting for a championship. So a lot can change, and when you have a great car and a mediocre driver, sometimes good things happen.
Hey, don't get started because all the fans are going to be like, "Oh, are you saying that Hamilton is not good?" Maybe. Who knows?
We're not saying.
Anyway, podium. How does this race finishes?
So the podium. Brace yourself for this. The podium is Vettel, Kovalainen, Kubica. And the thing Kubica in 11th. Is what he said. He started 11th and finished as
driver of the day. He's
driver
of the day.
Yep. Driver of the day, without a doubt.
He's the driver of the day, and low key, right? Because again, I think I heard his name 1 or 2 times during the race because of the awful, broadcast. but he went up the field so good and managed his races and tire and fuel so good that he put his BMW up there.
Yeah.
To me, he was driver of the day. Vettel and Kovalainen, great job by Vettel, but also Kovalainen. He kept his second spot. He started in second. He finished in second. Again, people thought he was gonna be good. He displayed some early potential, which never panned out. But it was an interesting podium for sure. People also praising Kubica for being there. He was actually just a couple of years older than Vettel, so he did have potential.
Yeah.
Fucking rally accident pissed me off. But he showed he was capable. Raikkonen got the fastest lap on I think the last lap, right?
Yeah, the very last lap. Yeah.
Too bad there was no points for that, but
he did. Yeah, it's just for pride at that point. Which I'm a little surprised that they didn't. They must not have allowed Seb to go for it, because I think he was on intermediates at the end. So I mean, he probably could have went for it if he wanted to. But I'm guessing that they told him to just relax and take the win.
Seb was definitely managing the car, and say what you want, but he was managing the car perfectly. He knew when to push. He knew when to save everything. There was a point in the last 10 laps that Kovalainen started to close on him. Like he went suddenly from 11 to 9 seconds, and I was like, "Oh shit, it's gonna happen." And then all of a sudden, Vettel finishes 12 seconds ahead of Kovalainen. So he did have something on the tank that he was managing, and he just showed how much of a good race strategist he is. Being able to manage all of that. So he becomes the youngest pole sitter and winner in Formula One. And is this still the record, or did someone break the record already?
I don't think Max Verstappen broke the record.
I thought he did. Definitely for winner.
For winner.
And I think Verstappen must have broken both. I'm sure some of the Verstappen stands will let us know on Twitter, but I think Verstappen may have broken both of those. But
but yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. But it was amazing at the time. I mean, when you see Seb on the post race interview, I mean, his body looks like a tennis racket. He's got this giant head and like this skinny little body there. I mean, Jamie, you were gonna say how much you love Seb winning this race.
No, I was going to say that we talk about the engine management. They made a point to note that it was the second race that they'd used the same engine in for the Toro Rosso, so he was managing it. And I'm like, wow, it's just totally different to what we deal with today. But I'm just like 2 races in, and they're worried about the engine going down. But like you said, it dropped in the lead, and then he just pulled it back out again. It was just very impressive. And you can't help but kind of like the guy back then. Even Martin Brundle said he's given a bad name to drivers with. He shakes the hand to people asking questions. Thanks for the question. And he was just a really nice guy. And you still see it now. He is a genuinely good, fun guy to talk to and do interviews with. Like, hopefully he'll come on our show.
He is, like you said, he was skinny and young, but also full of hair, right? His hair, all blonde, long hair. It was nice. Like, it was nice to see the post-race interview, and, seeing him talking, he's so mature, for his age, as was Lewis. I think they have different styles, but both, like, you can see, like, Vettel is polished, and, like, he speaks English very well, and he's very methodical, and he knows how to express himself. And Lewis as well, he expresses himself very well, but he's very, like, raw, talented driver. It's like more like, let's go, but both had that will to win, and both proved that they were very good. But one thing just to wrap up, and then I'll shut up. But on that post race interview, fucking Kovalainen, as much as he was doing well, he looks like a douche. He just looks like an asshole. I don't know why, but he just like his face, like just smile a little bit. I don't know.
He just came second in a Grand Prix. Like, light up.
Not excited at all. That he qualified second, finished second. And I wanted to say about Seb. This solidified that that he was going to go to the big the brother team the next year, right? This solidified his spot really. I mean, he had performed well. He may have still gotten it, but this dominating weekend, doing well in practice, pole, winning, all of that kind of says, okay, he's definitely going to Red Bull, and so that shapes his whole career around this. So it's kind of nice to think about, complete focus on one weekend to maximize what you can do can really change your whole weekend. So I think a lot of young drivers could find some wisdom in here. And what Seb did is you make the most of when you have a chance, and it just breeds more chances for you.
Yeah, I don't know if Coulter was planning to retire already. I don't know if Red Bull was had made official for Vettel that he was going to the big team, but he definitely left a good impression. Definitely showed that he should be on the bigger team.
Yeah. You wouldn't leave a talent like that floundering, on the smaller team, right? I mean, so there's definitely something to okay, he got bounced down, right?
Russell. My thing is that if that was modern day Red Bull, they would have made the change straight after that.
Oh
race.
Yeah. They would go both drivers, like, get out of here, Weber and Coulter. Give me 2 new people. 100%. I mean, it could have been Alonso and Vettel, like the duo for that team. Could have been.
What could have been? Well, it was not the most exciting race, but still a lot of cool stories there. And to get Seb's first win, first pole. All right. Last thoughts, Jamie. Anything to wrap up?
Just the funny attempted joke that Brundle had. McLaren's day was meant to have a Kovalainen. Boom boom. He even said boom boom after he said that.
He even said it.
He knew it was that bad.
Yeah,
so those jokes haven't gotten better. Nope.
The all-Italian team won, right? Toro Rosso, former Minardi with Ferrari engine, won in Italy. They actually at that point were in front of Red Bull, 27 to 26 points. It was actually the first Red Bull race victory at all, like from their
because they'd only
both teams.
Year before.
Yeah, so the highlight, I think it was pretty exciting. A lot of party going on after that race, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think even Seb mentioned that there was only like 160 some employees or something at that time. So pretty small. So yeah, I'm sure they had a good time. All right.
It was very exciting. Thanks for choosing this one, guys. It's always nice to see those old races. I enjoyed. Hopefully everyone else enjoys. Yeah. If you liked, please, leave us a review, like subscribe, like whatever. Like if you are watching, leave a comment. If you're listening on podcast, leave us a rate.
5-star review.
Yeah, 5-star review. Like ping us on Twitter. Do your thing.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.